I did a little survey at the beginning of the year and I asked, how do you feel? The majority of people said happy. That was literally
really
was happy.
Really?
From my actual Buddhist practice.
Right, okay.
It was, changed my life. It did change my life. Finding a Buddhist practice saved me from myself. And like I say, I cried during the session. I cried when I got outside the session and I just had to have more of that. I hadn't had that spiritual food anywhere before. It just calmed my mind. It made me realise I was worrying about all the wrong things. And I'm sure every other person in the room felt exactly the same, because the point is we all have the same struggles. It all comes back to the same thing. Humans just want to be happy, And I'm talking to you, I'm focused.
Of course.
You would look at me and think, she's not ill, there's nothing wrong with her. But the fact is, I'll probably be down for the rest of the afternoon after that. After the adrenaline from this dissipates, I'll be absolutely crashed out, And the thing is that people don't tend to see you when you're in that state. So people have this misconception that there's nothing wrong with you. Probably if you're crashing, you're hiding from the world as well.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom. I am your host, Luke, and I have, well, let's put it this way, a life-changing guest whose story today is going to empower more women in business to go after their dreams. Because sometimes in life, we have challenges. It can hold us back. We can let it victimize our lifestyles. But Abi Dashery, she is someone that I do work with closely as well in a business capacity. But honestly, her story I know is going to touch so many today, but also give you that sense of, I don't want to say hope, but possibility that you can change even when life throws challenges at you. Look, Abi Dashery, she's got a tie-dye online sustainable clothing brand. She is an author and she has a disability that anybody in this world would deem it as something to hold her back, but she's used it as power to move her into running her own business. So, Abi, without further ado, I want to welcome you to the podcast.
Hello, thank you. That was a big introduction. No pressure.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, no, you did.
Oh, thank you. This is your first podcast episode, right?
It is, yes. This is my first podcast interview.
I love this, I love being able to give back and allow people to share their story to the world. So, just so people listening today kind of get a bit of a vibe of your journey. I know there's so much to it, but I think the first place is actually, just you guys might see this on the video, you might not, but Abi's actually wearing, obviously, tie-dye clothing on. There you go, of course, on the episode today. When did this idea come to life to start creating this sustainable clothing brand of yours?
Well, I suppose it was 10 years ago when I found myself ill with ME and I had no support and there was nothing else I could do. As far as I could see, I could either kind of go on the sick, which I'm not judging anybody who goes down that route, but I just couldn't envisage myself doing that. I needed a focus. So the fact that I found myself ill and at home and couldn't work, I really felt that I had to do something about that. Having a creative business is something I'd always wanted to do, but it was that age-old thing where people always told me you can't make a sustainable business from art. You must have a normal job and do it on the side. There's no way that you can do that. So all my life I'd just done jobs that I hated. And so when I found myself out of work and unwell, it was like that opportunity had been given to us to go out and do it, to give it a go. So I really felt like I had no option. But at the same time, looking back, if that hadn't happened to me, I don't know if I would still be working in an office, So
this is really good then. So obviously you've fought resistance from a lot of other people, the naysayers, the opinions, but you again taking this golden opportunity because you'd obviously slowed down. You had all the time in the world and you thought, wow, I've sort of got this one shot to see if this creative business that I've always wanted to sort of go into it is kind of a now or never moment.
Yeah, exactly. It was that push that sometimes you need in life, or that thing where you find yourself in a low position and it's kind of your choice whether you rise above that, try and find some good out of it, because there's always a lesson, there's always a learning in a negative experience. So I think, it was just that mindset that I have, that I don't like to let things stop me.
Do you know what? And obviously I know this deep down, and just just for people who are tuning into this and not too sure what ME actually is, obviously, what is it from your own experience, and how has that sort of affected, I guess, your day to day, really?
Okay, so it's hard to describe to people, because when you tell people about tiredness, exhaustion, fatigue, they're presumably thinking about it from how they feel tiredness. So they're thinking, everyone's tired. We're all tired. But the thing is, I used to be one of them people, and I used to be doing 100 things a day and running around all over the place. And I used to get tired, but then I'd recover from that tiredness and I'd get up the next day and I'd be able to do it again. And that's the difference between ME. It's a real disproportionate tiredness. So now I can do a really small task. Even this interview now, I'm really animated. I'm talking to you. I'm focused.
Of course.
You would look at me and think, she's not ill. There's nothing wrong with her. But the fact is, I'll probably be down for the rest of the afternoon after that. After the adrenaline from this dissipates, I'll be absolutely crashed out, And the thing is that people don't tend to see you when you're in that state. So people have this misconception that there's nothing wrong with you. But, probably if you're crashing, you're hiding from the world as well. So it's this disproportionate tiredness that can become total overwhelm, so sensory overwhelm, so lights, noise, focusing on something like this, anything like that really tips you over the edge into not just a tiredness, it's a absolutely debilitating fatigue. I normally have to have lights off, no sound. I can't watch something. I can't scroll. I can't talk sometimes,
Wow.
It's such debilitating tiredness. It's so hard to describe to people who haven't experienced it themselves.
Yeah. And do you know what, when you said it there about the tiredness of, sort of people have, but I'm tired as well. And the fact that they sort of bounce back, or no matter what, they can sort of dig deep, grind through it, even when they're really tired, it's sort of like you find that energy from somewhere, let's say.
Yes.
But for you, who's been diagnosed with ME, it's obviously very different, isn't it? Like you say, you sort of have to, it might be days, it might be even a week. I know, obviously,
months, sometimes
months. Okay, even months, right? It can affect you. So with that, then obviously having ME, obviously most people, I guess, if they receive that diagnosis, would probably go, that's me done. Can't really work anymore. It's sort of, even if you shared it with people, it might be that sort of sympathetic. I'm really sorry to hear that. What, just from your own experience, what sort of made you turn this into a positive after receiving that diagnosis?
Honestly, I think it was, at the time, it felt like a need, because I knew that I couldn't work a normal job. I knew that I couldn't work for somebody. I knew that I couldn't be relied upon in the way that you need to be in the world of work. I've always worked before. I know what it's like. I couldn't just go for a lie down whenever I need one, or just ring up and say, I'm just not coming in today. I can't, I couldn't do that to somebody. So I knew that even if I tried to get back into work, I wouldn't be able to. So I had to have an income from somewhere, because for the first 2 years that I was ill, I didn't get a diagnosis. I couldn't get a doctor to listen to me. So I didn't have any support. The job centre was pushing me to look for work that I knew I couldn't do.
Okay.
So I didn't see that I had an option, because I had to have an income from somewhere. So that really, it was a need rather than a want at that time.
Okay, so this is really good then. Appreciate you sharing that. So I know you said earlier about that you didn't have the support, but I didn't realise that it was actually 2 years that you sort of was battling with going out to work, and then you knew in yourself, I can't be relied on. I'm not, because obviously for years prior to that, before you got diagnosed, it was sort of, you was working, it all seemed sort of okay. So at what age, just so people sort of can check in where it was in the stage of your life, Abi, at what age did you get diagnosed with ME?
So I was 33 when I got ME. I was 35, 36 when I got diagnosed with ME.
Right. Okay. And okay. Thank you for sharing that. So when did you yourself start noticing something wasn't quite right within yourself?
It'll be 11 years ago now. I was working in a drug and alcohol rehab, and that job ended very stressfully and traumatically. I was also in a really toxic relationship, and I had a friend die of a brain hemorrhage over a 6-week period, and I was by his bed at the time. So it was all these really traumatic experiences happened to me, bang, bang, bang. And I just felt like I didn't get up from that. That was, I think, the Christmas of 2013. And it was just, I always joke about it, I had a year in bed, but I literally did. Just couldn't get up, couldn't couldn't do something just as easy as go to the bathroom, go and make myself something to eat. And I was just absolutely flat and back in bed again. And I could not understand what was happening to us, because I was a person who didn't drive, but travelled the whole northeast doing, you know, my mother used to be an alcoholic. I used to care for her. I used to work. I used to volunteer. I was studying. I was a person who was always busy and always did twice the amount of what everyone else around me did, it felt like. And then suddenly I couldn't get to the bathroom. You know, I couldn't make myself something to eat. I was absolutely flawed by this illness, and I didn't know what it was. And the GP didn't believe me. He kept saying it was, you know, in my head, you know, giving me antidepressants, putting me on rounds and rounds of CBT. Just, you know, I just really felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall, running up and down an escalator, and nobody understood what was going on with me at all.
Wow. The fact that, you know, you spent a year in bed.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, not.
No, I know what you mean.
You know, like, you know, technically, yes, I did.
Yeah, you was absolutely exhausted. You know, there wasn't much there. Because the thing is, right, I think this is where, you know, I'm obviously sort of talking from somebody who's in the 30s as well. Like, how, I mean, obviously you've gone through traumatic experiences. We might sort of like not go back to exactly that place, but sort of back in your previous life before you became a business owner.
Yeah.
But I mean, how did that feel to feel this in your 30s? Because most people are like, these are your best years of your life. You know, it's sort of like the development years, right?
I have struggled with, I think I've come to terms with it now, because I just have to see the positives and the things that I've made out of it, and it's great. But for a long time, I felt very robbed of my 30s.
Of course.
You know, because I just felt like all of me was stripped away. Suddenly I wasn't able to be independent anymore. I wasn't able to get places on my own. I wasn't able to do all the things I needed to do to look after myself. So just all that independence was stripped away. I felt very isolated. Suddenly I didn't have friends, you know, like people that I'd supported and been friends, and I would have supported them through anything. They slowly dropped off, you know, and you know, that was really difficult for me to understand. And so for ages, I was like mourning this person that I used to be, like, oh, I want to be that person again. And then I just came to this realization that I am a totally different person now, but I am actually totally happy with that. And all those things that happened got me here. And I know that's a cliche, but, you know, I am actually comfortable with it now. But for a long time, and definitely through that period in my 30s, I just felt angry, frustrated, you know. You can't get your 30s back. But at the same time, look what I did, you know, during that time.
Yeah, I think, obviously, look, you're going to talk of it from cliche, Abby, but, you know, if we really get honest here on the table of that feeling, like you say, it was being robbed, feeling down, I mean, there's nothing that you can sort of hide away. It must have been really a hard time, a hard pill to swallow, to be so young, to then be diagnosed with this condition. However, though, I guess, was it a relief that you knew something wasn't quite right and you finally knew what it was?
It was. I'll be honest, you know, I'm one of these people who researches things. So I had pretty much come to the same conclusion myself long before the doctors would agree.
Right.
But you see, what I thought is, when I get a diagnosis, I'll be able to say to people, I've got ME, and people will stop thinking I'm just lazy or don't have the strength of character to push past a bit of tiredness. I thought that people, when I said I've got ME, I'm diagnosed, I thought there would be more understanding there. But I have to be honest, Luke, and say that really, I have not experienced a lot of understanding of my illness. It's getting better. I think long COVID helped highlight that it is a real thing, because, you know, when long COVID happened, you're seeing people who are like athletes, and suddenly they're saying, I can't go for a walk, never mind a run. That highlighted it, because the two are very similar. They're not the same, but they're very similar.
Okay. This is good what you're sharing. So would you say that people deemed you as weak then?
Yeah, definitely. And that really annoyed me, because I thought, you know, you know me, and your suggestion that I, you know, don't have the strength of character to push past this, when you should know very much that I do, that really annoyed me, and I felt really kind of abandoned by a lot of people. They're just thinking, oh, whatever, pathetic. Yeah.
And I think as well, you know, it's horrible to hear, you know, you say this, but it's just the way that some people are, right? They sort of like pull themselves away when somebody's sort of completely changed, which is out of their control. Like, it's out of your control. You know, nobody knew that you was going to be having this condition, but the fact that they wasn't willing to hold a space to hear you out, understand you, and meet you at where you're at, shows obviously they weren't your true friends and the people that, you know, would be with you. So for you then, what, like just as a, not as a concluding piece, but as a summary, what do you think has been the biggest change in you as a person, Abi, that you could share to people who's listening today, that from being the Abi before Emmy to now being the Abi that's living with Emmy, what's been the biggest change in you as a person?
I suppose the biggest positive change was acceptance. Acceptance that a change had happened, and it didn't matter how much I resisted that change, hated that change, upset myself over that change. It had happened, it was happening. And when I accepted that, then I could accept me more and accept Emmy more, I suppose. And learn to work with it and live with it, you know, instead of thinking I'm ever going to be able to be this old person that I kind of was holding up on a pedestal, that actually wasn't that great and wasn't working on themselves as much as I am now, and, you know.
Yeah, I think that word there, acceptance, is powerful, you know, and I think, so by the way, congratulations, absolutely commend you, respect you so much that you accepted it, because obviously, you know, it wasn't going to go away, was it? So the longer, I guess, you sort of resisted it, was going to just resent it, I guess, in a way, it wasn't going to benefit your time, your life in any way. So I think for you to just sort of use it as a way of like, look, this is with me, I'm going to accept it, but I'm also not going to let it stop me, you know, from doing what I want to do. So with obviously your life before Emmy, you said you was really busy, you was doing lots of things. Yeah, what was Abi Dashery's life like before Emmy? What was you kind of getting up to?
I was active in a Buddhist community. That was one of the biggest things that I did. And I used to volunteer. I used to run the staff of the shop in the Buddhist centre. As a volunteer role, as well as being at the centre, and, you know, being an active part of the Buddhist community is a beautiful thing that I miss. I still have links with these people, but it's not part of my daily life like it used to be. And that's one of the things that was stripped away, because it was a little bit of travel to get there. You know, I used to get there on my own, and suddenly it required someone to take me in a car. So it's just one of those things that dropped off. So I used to volunteer doing that. I was working in a drug and alcohol rehab, which not everybody knows, but my mother was an alcoholic. The drug and alcohol rehab that I worked in, prior to me working there, my mother got sober in that drug and alcohol rehab. So I had real connection to that place.
Yeah.
And when I took that job, I was in the middle of a social work degree, and I was toying with whether or not to leave this degree or not. And I just thought, this is the job that I want if I get the degree. So I left the degree and went to do this job in the drug and alcohol rehab. And that was a brilliant job that I really enjoyed, but it was very stressful. I was not good at coming home and forgetting my clients. You know, some people can switch off, and I'm not a person who could. So that burned me out really quickly.
Yeah, so, wow. Okay, so obviously a lot of your lifestyle was quite intense. You know, this is what I'm feeling. It was like you're juggling a lot of things. Obviously, you was doing volunteering work. You was managing a lot of people. You sort of had to be, I guess, switched on and be in line with your emotions and hold spaces for people to sort of let them decompress, I guess.
Yeah.
So, you know, in that moment then, in that time where you was in this sort of like say, alcohol and drug rehab, obviously I know you was there supporting your mum and making sure she was okay, which I think is brilliant. And obviously you did this Buddhist community. What did you do sort of for yourself outside of all of this chaos? Was there anything?
Now you're asking. Nothing.
Really?
From my actual Buddhist practice.
Right, okay.
It changed my life. It did change my life. Finding a Buddhist practice saved me from myself.
Right.
But apart from that, absolutely nothing. I was frazzled all of the time. I'm not surprised I burned out to the point that I ended up with ME, which I'm sure is part of, and ADHD. I've got ADHD as well. So I've become overwhelmed, and obviously that wasn't diagnosed till last year. So all of that's flying around as well at the same time. I don't know how I stayed standing so long when I look back.
Yeah. Like,
I was doing all that stuff. How was I fitting it all in? That's crazy.
Yeah. So really, you had done a lot in regards to making sure everybody else was okay.
Yes.
But then you sort of like slowly but surely got to the bottom of the pile, and then it sort of hit that burnout. Now, I want to ask you this now. Now you just said this, because this is what I love about podcasts, because you sort of say things just naturally, and it's sort of, we can pick on this. You said that the Buddhist practice saved you. So what did it save you from?
saved me from myself. I was really low and empty when I found Buddhism.
Okay.
I had been reading a book about Buddhism, and in it said something about when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And I'm living in Gateshead. And I'm like, right, how's that going to happen? How's a Buddhist teacher going to appear? You know? And anyway, my dad worked in a place in Newcastle, in Gosforth. Turns out he was walking past a Buddhist centre every day on his way to and from work. Didn't realise. Popped in, got me a leaflet. I went along. There was this guy called Sharab, who's my friend to this day. He's a Buddhist monk. So there you go.
Nice.
He appeared, my teacher appeared, and he just calmed my mind. He made me realise I was worrying about all the wrong things. I was putting my attention on all the wrong things. And the first session that I had, I just sat and cried through the whole session because it just felt like he was talking to me. And I'm sure every other person in the room felt exactly the same, because the point is we all have the same struggles. It all comes back to the same thing. Humans just want to be happy. So yeah, that was the start of something for me. That one session with Sharab was just so powerful. And like I say, I cried during the session. I cried when I got outside the session, and I just had to have more of that. I hadn't had that spiritual food anywhere before, and I think I had really wanted it, and it just opened something up in me that I'm so thankful that happened, because I just feel like before that, the world was dark and I was just trudging through life. I had a job I didn't like, rubbish relationships. I just had nothing really, and certainly didn't have any, I was desperate to be spiritual. I was reading books all the time, but I had no guidance of how to make that start, how to become a spiritual person and learn to turn inward. So yeah, that was what definitely began my journey of turning my life around. That was way before the business, but the business would never have happened.
Yes. So when, okay then, so just so people get, obviously, and by the way, thank you for sharing that. I think there's going to be a lot of people that resonate talking about, I feel empty. Maybe they even feel empty right now in the journey. They're sort of maybe feeling like the world's against them. There's no acceptance. Maybe they're in a place where they just feel like, do you know what? It will pass. It's probably just a feeling, but actually no, it's sort of like checking in with that. So for you sort of, found this teacher. Was this sort of like in person? Was this an online thing? No,
it was in person. It was classes. There was a beginner's class on a Tuesday night, and I went to that class for years, and then I assisted the class.
Wow.
Which was just lovely to do and see other new people like me coming in and just being like, and I'd been through it, so I knew what they were going through, and yeah, it's beautiful. Some of those people are still there now,
Yeah.
I suppose meditation is the main thing. We used to say meditate, don't medicate.
I like that. Yeah.
Change your life, we used to say. So that was the first time I'd ever sat down calm, been still, gone into myself. And it sounds so silly and simple, but, it isn't, because everyone thinks they haven't got time, and everyone's got 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. So yeah, that's what it taught me. It taught me to just be still sometimes.
Okay, then this is good. Great thing that you shared there about it's only 10 minutes. It's sort of stillness. It's sort of like checking in, slowing down, the meditation. Meditate, don't medicate. God, absolutely love that as well. What was your if you can remember? I know it's hard because it's probably like quite some time ago. But what was your first sort of feelings around just sitting still, closing your eyes, and actually meditating?
Honestly, it's a really difficult thing to do when you've got a scattered mind. And that's one of the things probably where people try meditation and think, I'm no good at this. And that's why doing it in a group is good, because you have to sit. You can't get all antsy and go, I'm going to go make a cup of tea, I'm no good at this, because you're in a room with other people. It's not easy to do. People think that you just sit down and you just do it, but you don't, because you've got the monkey mind and your brain is going, and all the things are jumping around, and you've got to learn to sit with that, let it be, not follow every thought. And that's so difficult to do. So people make it look easy because they're just sitting, but you don't know what's going on in there.
No, I think it's really good that I guess she was open-minded to an experience like that. But I guess for you, was it sort of, would you say now, looking upon reflection, did it feel like a bit of a calling for you, Abi, in a way, or did it feel natural, or did your body and mind resist sort of that route of Buddhism and going to that place? Did you feel like, oh, this is a load of crap, or did you just naturally flow into it?
I did naturally flow into it because I had already given up alcohol and given up meat and was already thinking these things.
Okay.
So then I found this and the two just kind of came together.
Yeah.
And no, it felt like a calling at the time. It did.
Nice. No, I like this, and I think it's just good for people to understand a little bit about, I guess, your spiritual journey, and we'll probably tap onto that as well, the creative side. But just so people sort of understand this chaotic life that you had, and sort of, not feeling any, I don't know, I guess, purpose in a way, if you did feel empty inside. What was Abi Dashery's life like as I guess a 21-year-old moving through life? What was happening? What was going on? Where was your life heading?
Oh, to be honest, I would almost use the word hedonistic to describe 21-year-old me. I was drinking, I was partying. I had 21. I had just spent a year in Crete, in Malia, party town,
Yes.
working for the summer. And then I got a job as a stripper.
There you go. Yeah, honestly.
In those days, it was topless only.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was living this life of being a stripper on an evening, spending money, only cared about how I looked. I wouldn't even go to the shops without full makeup, eyelashes, nails, heels. It was ridiculous. Really, that was my only focus in life. How did I look? What were my friends doing? Where's the next party? I didn't have a plan. Didn't have savings. I didn't have anything like that. Which I'm sure a lot of people at that age don't have a plan.
Yeah, you just sort of finding your way. But I think just how you've said there, look, listen, you're saying it so honestly, which is good. The fact that, look, I've partied, I've enjoyed myself, didn't know what my life was going to be. I was just so bothered about the way I looked, and that was it. So obviously, just going into your sort of stripping career, right? Because, well, for some it is, isn't it? It kind of goes throughout their life. They sort of make a good making out of it. Sort of, they love it, don't they? Fall in love with it. What brought you into that? What sort of, how did that sort of happen from going away from being abroad into that?
I totally fell into it. So I came back from being abroad. Obviously, didn't have a job. Still living with my dad. Went to Build-A-Bear. You took Remy to Build-A-Bear, didn't you? For birthday. What used to be called Bear Factory. And I'd worked there for a Christmas. So I went in there for a Christmas job. They gave me one straight away. They were just like, start Monday. I was like, great, thank you. So that was a short contract. And at the end of it, we all went for a drink to say goodbye. And someone said, they're auditioning at For Your Eyes Only, which is the name of the club.
Yeah.
You could do that. This is what this girl said to us. She said, you could do that. And that would never have crossed my mind that I could do something like that. But the fact that someone said it put the little seed in my head, and I thought, could I do that? So I went home, practiced in front of the mirror and all that stuff. Rang up, got an audition. An audition at a stripper club is about 30 seconds long. As long as you haven't got two heads,
Yeah.
So that was it. I totally fell into it. It wasn't a thing I ever thought about doing until someone suggested it. And when I looked into it, there's bodyguards, there's no touching, it was topless only. It wasn't like people might think it was.
No. Listen, it's I know it can be professional. I'll quite openly say, I have been in strip clubs before. Every guy that's probably has had that experience in their life. So obviously some places are dodgy, but obviously you had that good experience. Just from that though, obviously, like you say, you fell into it. I know this is probably not a valid question to even ask, but what is there anything that you're taking away from that experience that you would be like, if someone was to sit back and you just had a chat at a campfire and we're just talking about your life, is there anything that you'd sort of share from that experience?
Do you know what? I'm glad I did it. I don't look back and wish that I hadn't. The girls were amazing. I had some really good female bonds there, which with us having trouble with my mother, because my mother was an alcoholic, my dad brought us up. I always struggled, and still do, to bond with women. And it was a really nice bonding experience working with all those women. And it gave me such confidence doing that job. It really did.
Yeah.
I'll definitely take that away from it, how confident I was.
Well, that's good then. And I like the fact that, like you say, you had those sort of female figures, people that, do you still speak to any of them today? Just curious.
I don't think I do. I might have a couple on Facebook. We don't really speak, but there's some really nice girls. there, you know, from all walks of life, doing all different things, all different reasons for being in a strip club, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's great that you're sharing this so openly as well. I think what's going to be good about this is like the twists and turns of like where your life's kind of gone through.
Yeah.
So you did that, and then what was after that? Did you go into the drug and alcohol rehab after the stripping, or?
No, I went through a series of jobs that I didn't really enjoy. So I worked in the back office of N-Power for years. I was an estate agent, which I did love that job, but it's a high stress, high energy kind of job. But so I worked in a pillow factory once when I was like, honestly.
Wow, you've done it all.
Just done all kinds of random jobs. Didn't stick at any. Often would get burnt out, so I'd go in there, all guns blazing, I'd be brilliant, everyone would be like, oh, she's so good, and then I would just peter out, start ringing in sick, she's burnt out, you know?
Yeah.
That pattern would repeat itself over and over again.
So how, if we was to sort of like, I mean, you might not know the exact number, but obviously now you've been in, we'll get to this point, you've been in business 10 years, but if you was to sort of put a number on how many jobs that you've done throughout your life, how many jobs would you say you've done?
It's got to be between 15 and 20, I think.
Madness. Yeah, that's good. Wow. Okay. But that's really good for people to sort of understand here, knowing that you just are I didn't know what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do when I was older sort of thing. It was sort of just see where life takes us. Because do you know what? We know what it's like when we're sort of going through school, and there's that sort of condition, like going to school, to uni, to go to, you know, like maybe conditioned to be like, this is it, this is your life for life sort of thing. This is going to be a career up until retirement. Obviously, you sort of shown that you can still be and build the dream business of what you want, even at an age of 30 odd to be able to do that and have 15, 20 jobs before that. So just obviously going through all these, you know, jobs and stuff. What was you feeling? Because obviously for a lot of people, you know, trying all different things, it can be quite, I don't know, deflating, maybe sort of like rejecting that you're trying something, you don't enjoy it, you leave it, or you burn out, you sort of go all guns blazing and pull away. What sort of kept you moving forwards, even though that you sort of was going from job to job?
I don't know, I think it was just a need again in those days, because you've got to eat, you know, and you've got to live. When I look back at those times, I was so depressed. Honestly, I was
really
moving from job to job that I didn't like, you know, just soul-sucking jobs. Do you know what I mean? You just come home at the end of the day and you just feel like everything's in black and white, you know?
So you went from soul-sucking to soul-searching.
Yes.
So we know there's been a lot of sort of energy draining, burnout. Obviously got ME condition where, you know, you don't necessarily know what every day is going to be like. You sort of, the energy can be up, down, it can last weeks, months. Question for you, how have you personally, if we go a little bit deep on this, how have you turned this into a superpower?
I started to work with it instead of against it, I think. And support as well. Because when I met my husband, I've only been with my husband 7 years.
You say only. That's a good amount of time. Congrats.
I know, for 43, you'd think I would have been married for years, wouldn't you?
No. That's good.
But my husband's got a chronic illness as well. He's got Crohn's disease. He knows what it's like to be not understood, not believed, for people to look at you and think you're well when you're dying inside.
Right.
He was one of the first people who just believed us and acted like they believed us, you know, and supported us. So support, it was massive. Gave me the courage to say, no, this is me, and we'll work with it, you know, instead of trying to hide it, like, you know, burning myself out to prove something, rather than just say, I can't do that.
Oh, I mean, what a relief.
Oh, it was. Yeah. It was.
I sort of like,
because obviously he has the same thing, not the same illness, but the same problem.
No, so where did you guys meet?
Well, we met at school.
Same
school. So we met when we were 11.
There you go.
And then he's a musician. And this is funny, actually. There was a busker in the street, and she was so good that I stopped to go to listen to her. And I went back and said, where can I find your music? And she gave us her name, and her name's Abi. So I'm like, right, no, I'll remember that.
Can't forget that.
And so I came back and found her on Facebook, and she was linked with Paul on Facebook. She knew him and she thought we'd be really good together. She kind of set us up on a blind date. Although we knew each other at school, we'd never seen each other since. So we met up on this blind date. He came to my house because I wasn't well and I couldn't go out for a date. So bless him. I mean, that was another reason, because when I messaged and said, I can't go out, could you come to me? He was so understanding about it.
Mm.
And a lot of people would have just been like, no, this doesn't sound fun. So we had barbecue chicken pizza in the house and it was lovely. And that was it. We were barely apart from then.
So that was sort of like a condensed story, and obviously you met at school. Yeah, but do you know what? I mean, obviously I know you've kind of told me the story, but it's just so people sort of understand. But I think the sort of biggest thing that I've taken out of this is that not only have you, most importantly, accepted yourself, but you've found somebody that is also accepting. And you're accepting and you're working with each other. And I think that's so amazing, especially after that couple of years period where, you know, you felt a bit against the world, not much support, also not knowing as well what it actually is, even though you knew deep down by doing your research something wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
So with obviously I know, well, I don't know Paul personally, but I know of Paul, obviously we've spoken and stuff. What would you say to somebody that, and because this is about relationships right now, you know, what would you say to somebody that probably has got sort of a, you know, disability or challenge, but just from your own experience, what is the biggest thing that's helped you and Paul be such a great team, really, I guess?
I think we're just really open with each other about everything and really accepting of what each other says. So if I say I'm tired, he won't push it. If he's unwell, I won't push it. And I'll tell you what it is, we're each other's cheerleader.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
We're always there for each other. So if he's unwell, I'll be there for him. And if I'm unwell, he'll be there for me. And it normally works quite well. We're not normally both down at the same time.
I was going to say, what happens if you're both ill?
And sometimes it's like that, but you know, we're just, we don't push each other, but we cheerlead for each other.
I think that's really good. And obviously you're very supportive. And again, it's that understanding, isn't it, and holding that space to know that someone's there when you are down. Yeah,
exactly. And to just be believed, honestly, you won't believe how important that is when you have an invisible illness.
Yeah. No, definitely. And what made you start the business?
Well, like I say, it was just a case of having to. But I'd always wanted to, you know, when you were talking earlier on about when you're young and then I'd gone through all these jobs, I always wanted to own a fashion brand. I always wanted to. I always designed my own clothes. I mean, it wasn't tie-dye necessarily, although I did used to do tie-dye. It was all kinds of things, you know, putting studs on things, painting on things. So really, it was just my chance to give it a shot.
Go.
Work, because, you know, nothing else had worked. I've been told I couldn't do it. I've been told you must do this job, and none of that was working. So.
Okay, so it was always inside of you.
Yeah.
But you sort of neglected it. If you can remember, like, I know you've gone through loads of jobs, but if you look back upon, like, even your early teens, 20s, whatever, what made you hesitate or not start the business back then if you knew you always wanted to do it? Was there something that kind of held you back?
Honestly, it was just that outside pressure of people saying you won't make money from it.
Really? Okay.
You can't make money from a business. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to have, you've got to have something to fall back on. That's it. That's the phrase. You've got to have something to fall back on. So it was always suggested that if you want to do something like that, it should be as a sideline. It should be as a hobby. It shouldn't be seen as a thing that can be like your main income.
Yeah, that's, do you know what?
And that's common, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is common. I can relate to it as well.
But you can't do the two. That hobby will never become a business if you don't put the time in. And when you do a job of work where you're out 9 to 5 or something like that, with the best will in the world, you just don't have the time or the inclination when you get in from work to put in what you need, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And there is, honestly, there were so many people probably like going, gosh, do you know what? I can honestly relate to that. I guess letting outsiders sort of conditions stop you from fulfilling sort of your dream. I mean, just talking about tie-dye, I've actually got my Muscle Coach tie-dye socks on as we sat here recording this episode. So there you go. Tie-dye changes lives, people. But do you know what? It's like, obviously, fast fashion. Were you saying you're trying to beat fast fashion? I can't remember
exactly. Yeah, I want to be slow fashion. Fast fashion is the enemy.
Right. Okay. This is good then. So in terms of like your hobby and passion, you've now turned it into a business. You've been in it a while. You know, you're an author of a book as well. What's been the best feeling or experience that you can sort of take or share with the audience of being able to run a business that is your passion?
Suppose getting to a point where somewhere like, for example, Hobbycraft, 2 years ago, they sent me an email asking, would I like to do their tie-dye videos?
Wow.
Me.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, being in a position where people come to you for tie-dye work who you look up to,
Yeah.
As a person who's always loved crafts, obviously Hobbycraft is a place I've been frequenting for a long, long time. So
everybody knows Hobbycraft.
Things like that. Or we did the official merchandise for Download in 2022. Not many people actually know that. But,
wow.
We did that. That's incredible, no? That's insane.
Epic.
And neither of those jobs were jobs that I looked for. They found me. So that makes my insides burst open with excitement.
Oh, the fact that, you've had an impact through colour, through your business, through...
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you've run a business for 10 years. Obviously, you've gone through multiple jobs. You're now very established and experienced in both sides, being employed and being self-employed. What would you say to someone that maybe is listening right now and is maybe in that place of, I don't see myself being in this job until I'm retired. I actually genuinely don't enjoy it. I've got this idea. I want out. I want to explore it. If you were sat now having a coffee with them, what would you be sort of saying to them?
I mean, I'm such a devil. I'd be telling them, you've just got to do it. You just got to go for it. Because that is what I did, and it's not like it was plain sailing from the very beginning. I mean, in that first year, I did not earn much money. I think I sold a share of my business to my dad for 1,500 quid, I think, at the end of the first year, just to get me into the second year.
Okay.
I don't even know what percentage I sold him now. But yeah, so I would say you just have to go for it. But understand that you've got to grit your teeth through that first year. It's not always easy, but it is worth it. But nothing worth having is easy, is it? So you've just got to go for it anyway. You just got to go for it.
But I like the fact that you've obviously said, look, first year is going to be tough. I mean, the dropout rate with businesses in the first 1 to 2 years is extremely high. So from you, if there's anything that you've sort of action taken, conversations you've had, what got you past that statistic of dropout, with it being so high, to now still be in business 10 years with the experience that you've got? What do you believe has sort of helped you with that?
A lot of it's determination.
Right.
Honestly. I can understand why businesses fall off in the first couple of years. And obviously, my dad did help me in those first couple of years. I can't say that he didn't, financially. And if he wasn't helping us, maybe I would have had to be one of those statistics too. So I am lucky in that way. But also, I think maybe I would have found a way to make it happen anyway, because that is kind of my character. And once I had a taste of working for myself, and it wasn't the money, because there wasn't any money. It wasn't that made me want to keep doing that. It was the freedom. It was the going and reading a book in the park at lunchtime.
Yeah.
It was being able to rest when I needed to rest, and being able to enjoy the sunshine when I wanted to. Those type of things. I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to go back. Did not want to go back.
Yeah. Was there ever a moment? Okay, so I can feel that from you. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. Was there ever a moment in your journey of being a business owner and running the tie-dye clothing that you thought, maybe I'm going to have to go back to being employed?
Just that first year, when I borrowed that £1,500 off my dad, or when I sold shares in the business.
Yeah.
I thought, because I went to my dad and I thought he was going to say, you tried, well done, you're going to have to get a job. And he didn't. He said, well, sell me a share of the business.
Oh, no way.
And the fact that he thought it had that much scope, that it could go somewhere, that he wanted to lend me that bit of money just to keep me going a couple more months till I got more in my stride, just gave me so much confidence. If my dad thinks that it's viable, then maybe it is.
I love that. I love the support from your dad. And again, it's utilising that word, support. I think that's been sort of like a big anchor.
Yeah.
For you on this journey through life, and then obviously transitioning into sort of the business. If you was to now obviously where you're at in business, 10 years in business, that's a wealth of experience. Congratulations on being in business 10 years, because I think that deserves actually celebrating, by the way. If you was to talk back to your startup business self, so maybe you're just talking, what would you be saying to Abi Dashery, who's just starting out in the business from a 10-year mindset?
I would say stick with it, it's worth it. But also I would say seek some advice about technical things, because I blundered through those first few years, did not understand the internet, did not understand technological things. I think just delegating and outsourcing experts, although it feels like it's going to be very expensive, I think it will save in the long run. So I wish I had took more advice in the early days than I did. But yeah, I would definitely tell her to stick with it. It'd be worth it.
I like that. No, that's really good as well, in the fact that it's quite profound in, you know, allowing multiple eyes, expertise, sort of people that can guide you and speed it up. I know initially the fear's there, right, where you go, fear of finances, because obviously you just ultimately want the business to bring something in, but actually looking upon now where you are, knowing that if someone was starting out or was brand new to it, don't be afraid to, again, have that support in your corner as well. Don't do it alone.
Yeah.
I like that because I think it's always a nice piece to sort of reflect on, because I think, you know what it's like when you start out a business, you know, you sort of, again, you can be chaotic, can be all over the place, you know, trying to do everything at once, trying to find your feet, like just so people can sort of understand a bit more about, you know, even tie-dye itself. What would like an average day look like behind the scenes?
We'll say an average day when I'm not unwell, because it makes it easier.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Okay.
Well, you know, it's lovely. In the summer, I tie-dye outside. Paul is a musician and works evenings and weekends, so Paul helps me out a lot in the summer, and it's just lovely, you know. Honestly, we're so lucky. We're in the countryside, tie-dyeing outside, enjoying the weather. All the animals are running around, you know. It's a bit blissful. When I started this, I didn't live in the countryside. I lived in a flat with a backyard. Did all of lockdown in a tiny backyard, you know. So.
Wow. So what brought you to the countryside? What was that? Well,
lockdown was a huge part of it. I'm sure a lot of people felt that way. But I think me and my husband, we had to move out of the house we were in. So again, it was a case of, and I'm just realising this is a pattern for me, and I'm right up to the wire till someone boots me up the bum, and then I'll do it, because again, always wanted to move to the countryside, and we had to move out of the house that we're in. And it was just like, let's do this. Let's just move to the countryside. Let's not, because we're looking at houses around the city with like little tiny postage stamp gardens, and we're just like, no, this isn't what we want to do. So we moved up to this little village.
I love that. And do you know what is again a good piece to sort of pick on, where you've spoken about, I always leave it up to the wire and then I sort of get pushed to it. Obviously you'd said that earlier about setting up, you know, an arty sort of business. So obviously that's the life in the tie-dye. You get to do what you love. If someone was to sort of sit opposite you and to sort of say, Abi, you know, what does tie-dye clothing bring to someone's life? What's the impact of, say, if I was to purchase one of your t-shirts or vests or...
Okay, so we have this thing that me and you've discussed where we say rise and shine with Abi Dashery. And that's not about getting up out of bed. It's about rising, empowering yourself, you know, and shining your best light, you know, wearing the bright colours, you know, showing your individuality, standing out, being yourself, feeling comfortable in yourself. That is kind of what Abi Dashery is about.
And do you feel that by them, I guess, wearing like your product, what would you, so that, I love that, by the way, I love the rise and shine, I love the sort of individuality of it, sort of expression. What's been your most popular or common or even the best feedback you've received when someone has actually purchased some of your tie-dye clothing?
Well, I did a little survey at the beginning of the year, and I asked, how do you feel? The majority of people said happy. That was literally...
Really?
Was happy. And I feel a bit like that when I put my tie-dye on as well. You know everyone's going to turn and look at you. You know no one's going to be wearing the same thing. Yeah, I think it makes people curious and want to talk to you. You know, you often get comments when you're wearing tie-dye. And, you know, that brings people together. So that's nice.
I like that. I like the fact that the people are saying that they're happy, and even though sort of like they're standing out, because some people don't I know they say they don't
stand out.
Yeah, they don't want to draw attention to themselves and stuff like that, but then they're not happy, and you know what I mean? It's sort of, they want to be happy. It's like you're trying to battle with two things.
Yeah, well, I get a lot of holiday photos with people wearing Abi Dashery, so I think people get that vibe from it. They're like, I'm on my holidays, I'm going to take my Abi Dashery. It makes them feel colourful, it makes them feel bright, you know? Or maybe it takes people out of themselves a little bit. So, you know, like you say, people don't like to be seen, but then, you know, like sometimes when you go on holiday, you're like a different person, you know? I think there's a little bit of that about Abi Dashery, you know, you can step outside of yourself.
Yeah, that's really great. You know, that sort of expression, you can be yourself. Because obviously, I'll be honest, you know, I mean, obviously, I've obviously got some of your products, and obviously I'm somebody who can sit here and go, do you know what, they're great, you know, they really are.
Pictures of you wearing them.
You have, yes, you have. I was stood there. You've also got our daughter Remy wearing some vests as well, which is brilliant.
Model.
I know. If somebody, you know, if someone's like sort of listening today and don't really know about like tie dye, as it being obviously a business and stuff like that, what would you say is sort of, I don't want to say it's about sales, but what's the unique selling point when it comes to having tie dye on garments? And
well, for us, the unique selling point isn't actually the tie dye; it's the fabrics we use.
Right.
Organic cotton, bamboo, all sustainable fabrics, vegan approved. We use vegan approved dyes. We do not dye ahead in batches. We dye as we go. You order it, I dye it for you. That's how it works. We don't have warehouses full of lines that didn't sell that now I've got to get rid of, you know? So this is where I'm trying to say we are like trying to advocate for slow fashion. You know, it's handmade. It's good quality to start out with, and it's handmade with love by me. You know, and then you wear it. These are good quality dyes. They don't wash out. They're lovely and soft and cozy. You know, this is an investment in something that'll take you through seasons. You know, so that's what it's about. It's not just about I buy that t-shirt, I wear it twice, and then I chuck it in landfill. That's not what this is about. It's been lovingly made for you to lovingly wear and cherish. For years, hopefully.
I love that. And I think that, by the way, that's something, I mean, obviously I do know now, but that's something I would never have thought. The fact that, because everything is quick, isn't it? You know, you've gone against the grain there. Everything's like instant, you know, you want it now, but you're sort of taking that, listen, we do it with love, but we also hand tie dye. It's everything's done like in a way, sustainably, organically. And I think this is really, really powerful for people to sort of know and understand, I guess. So, you know, for like your sort of tie-dye, you know, your clothing, you know, the garments that you use, what would you say is sort of, I don't want to say the ideal person, but what would you say is sort of the people that would really benefit from tie-dye?
You see, I suppose, in a way, I would say anyone could, because like I say, there's that other side to everyone's personality that you have, like maybe when you go on holiday, you know, that slightly more flamboyant side.
Yeah.
You know, so in that way, I think it can appeal to anybody.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I say alternative people like me, vegans, alternative, people who like to go against the grain, express themselves, people who like to stand out in a crowd, say, yeah, I'm different, you know, I go against the establishment, you know, those types of people. Yes, obviously. But I'd like to bring everyone round to slow fashion. You know, fast fashion is absolutely ruining the planet, you know, and it can't continue. And I don't think people understand enough about that. You know, we don't need all this stuff.
Yeah, you've got a very valid point there, and I think obviously you've got credibility, you've got sort of skin in the game, but also what you're standing for is important, and the message that you're putting out is I think is really, really important. It's very clear as well. That's kind of a good, honestly, I think this is a good way to sort of like finish off this episode, because we've sort of like really tied, no pun intended, really well. So obviously you've listened to episodes, I ask this question all the time, but I'd love to hear your sort of view on this. Abi, what does mastering your life mean to you?
Oh, what does mastering my life mean to me? In terms of the work we've done together, mastering my life.
Anything, yeah.
Is slowing down. Self-care is mastering my life. We've done a lot of other work. We've put routines in place, which are really good. But at the core of all of it, you getting me to take more care of myself has made me work smarter, work harder, work more focused. So 100% self-care is the biggest mastery of my time that I've learned in this past 12 months working with you.
Brilliant. Well, I really appreciate that. And do you know what? That bit there is really good, because for anyone out there listening to this, that, you know, if you've obviously heard Abi's episode from the beginning, it was all that sort of burnout, it was all that sort of chaos, doing so many things, never not being busy, and neglected yourself, and it sort of led to so many different things. But now you've now understand the flip side of you know, what that can bring to your life in so many different ways. Look, if people are listening today and they sort of think, gosh, you know what, Abi, you're like super amazing, I want to connect with you, I want to find out more about what you do, where can people find you?
Well, you can follow me on my Instagram. Happy for you to DM me. That's Abi_Dashery on Instagram, or abidashery.com is my shop. You can message me there also. And those are probably the two best places to find me. Brilliant.
Well, they'll be in the show notes. People will. I'm sure wanting to connect with you and stuff like that.
That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
It was so good. But no, honestly, thank you so much for spending this hour with us, Abi. It's been really good. Obviously, I know you, but it's just been nice to explore this with you as well.
It's been lovely. Thank you. Because we said at the beginning we don't know where it's going to go. So thank you. It's been lovely. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. I know it's gonna have a lot of positive impact on people as well, and giving them a sense of what's out there. So no, thank you.
Thank you.